I'm a big fan of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. What I initially took as an early 2000s era romantic comedy with slight hipster ambivalent undertones turned into a deliciously overwhelming science fiction spectacle that explored the concept of relationships, memory, and perhaps Nietzsche's philosophical concept of eternal recurrence? So let's get down to the basics. This movie stars Jim Carrey as an awkward, secluded middle-aged man, Joel, who falls in love with a middle-aged woman named Clementine. Quite a unique name, I might say. She has a personality very similar to her name, but it's almost like a reflection of the things that we notice in people that we care especially about. Like, if you've ever met a person that you truly adored, someone who you really understood, they'd probably stand out to you. You notice each other's quirks and grow together, and in retrospective 20 years later, these memories of your initial meetup are bathed in this dreamy, nostalgic lens. That's what Eternal Sunshine is trying to do. The movie does a really good job at using camera work to show the disorienting nature of Joel's memories. In any major transition, we don't jump immediately into a scenario. We see these slow, often glowing photos of some specific type of scenery, like a film interpretation of a flashbulb memory, where a lot of the effects are very simple yet very elaborate. The lighting scene in the Montauk dream sequence used a bright spotlight to highlight very specific areas of the shot. The movie revolves around a business that earns its revenue by performing surgery on people who wish to forget things. Wheeler and Patrick, played by Elijah Wood, has hired two of the lab assistants to help erase Joel's memories. One of the conversations that stands out to me most is between Stan and Patrick, in which Patrick reveals to Stan, the lab assistant, that he had been stealing Clementine's underwear, and Stan expressed his distaste in that. And as he states this, he is actively ripping out these personal memories of some other guy, and it's kind of hypocritical. While this is going on, we take a look into Joel's mind, which jumps around from memory to memory in a disorienting way. As the movie progresses, he has conversations with Clementine in his dreams, in which he speaks to her of his own accord. These conversations, from a logical standpoint, are all created solely by his impressions of her. This isn't actually her that he is speaking with, so one could possibly argue that these scenes show either that Joel knows her so well that he knows what her responses would be to anything that he said, or that these are nostalgic colorings of a deep, inner-rooted feeling that Joe has felt about Clementine that will never escape him. It's almost like these things are predestined to happen, that they are bound to happen eternally. It's almost like Eternal Sunshine. The title is likely a nod to Nietzsche and his proposal of eternal recurrence, which, in non-philosopher's terms, creates a thought experiment that asks, these decisions that I've made in a similar circumstance, would I make them again? The big question that this movie asks is, are we eternally bound to the choices that we make? Is there something that we will want forever despite any circumstances? In Joel's case, this question is explored near the end of the film, when all of Clementine's memories are erased. He feels drawn to the beach of Montauk, the beach where he and Clementine had first met. And it's this general area where the movie initially began, when Joel felt an immediate urge to go to Montauk, and so did Clementine. And this makes the statement that we are eternally drawn to certain people. Despite literally no knowledge of each other, they still found themselves attracted to each other by a force none other than their own. It's like these nostalgic colors that Joel saw in Clementine. They weren't created by nostalgia, they stood out naturally to him, and perhaps him alone. The rest of the world is bland and uninspired, but this person is the one that I love. The plot progression immediately escalates the movie from a quirky romantic comedy into a full-fledged sci-fi philosophy adventure ride based solely on the revelation of this memory-changing device. This movie is a trip in all the right ways. I give it 2 thumbs, way up.